Hello everyone and welcome back to Nomifactory. Last time we unlocked our first fusion reactor here. It's about halfway through the neodymium that we put through this thing to make europium. We also unlocked our very first ZPM machine, the assembly machine. We buffed up the production of nether quartz, which has been running very nicely between episodes. We're back up to over 20,000 now. We are joined by some chickens here in the world, and these guys are helping us to produce stem cells. Stem cells being the thing we need for the next tier of circuit. Before we do that though, let's take a look back at the tiers 1 to 4. So we're over here at IV, we're next to where we have nether quartz. So with the unlock of Naquada, it means that we can actually make these SoCs and advanced SoCs. Or in other words, system on chips and advanced system on chips. What we have to do to create these is just add Naquada doped wafers into this interface, and set some filters on the inserts of the laser engravers that we left for these. System on chips being made with the nether star lens, and we even have a drawer left for it here. And then the advanced system on chips made with draconium lenses. This should be 2 quests. Nice. So as the quest points out here, these are very useful in unlocking the most efficient way to make refined micro and nano circuits, or in other words, the tier 1 to 3s. These SoC wafers though do have to be cut in the cutting saw first. And sure, we have the processing array over there, however I do think that we want to keep these separate, and we'll just set up 2 separate cutting machines here at EV. First one being for SoC wafers, and the second one will import ASoCs. We'll set these to keep exact 4 though, just so it doesn't buffer too many in the internal buffer, since the SoCs and ASoCs do take Naquada to make, and Naquada we're going to need for some other things today. But yeah, these are going to get their own drawers, some trim to connect them together, and a controller in the middle. So now that we have the SoCs and ASoCs, it means that we can add it to these filters here. So what we got set up here is a wire mill for tin alloy, and next to that is an assembly machine with tin alloy, and plastic boards. Checking the recipe for the refined circuit, there is actually a 3rd recipe available to us now that we have the SoCs, and this gives us 8 circuits per craft. Extremely good deal. All we need to do is add it to this filter on the insert of the machine, and we should be making refined circuits. Look at that. We're basically just printing tier 1s now. This is awesome. That is going to get its own drawer right here, and I think we'll just buffer 2,000 of each circuit. The tier 2 is very similar situation, except now it's epoxy boards and fine red alloy wire. So we have the double wire mill to take it from the ingot to regular wire, and then regular wire to fine wire. This one here is also going to grab system on chips from the interface next to the assembly machine, and we are also now just printing micro circuits. Oh yes, look at this. This is basically free tier 2s right here. The tier 3s though are a little bit trickier to do. Well, not necessarily more difficult. It's just that we need to do this LUV rather than IV at least. So that is exactly what we've now done with this assembly machine, and we're printing tier 3s. Again, I'm just going to let it buffer 2,000 of these things. We go through enough in a day. It's going to take a while for it to catch up to buffers, but honestly I think it's going to be fine in the long run since it's passive. Any higher than this, the tier 4 has to be made with the ASoCs, and this has to be ZPM. So I think we'll hold off on the cheaper ZPM circuits before we set up passive tier 4s. But yeah, for those of you who were curious why we waited so long on circuits, it's basically just because I wanted to unlock these SoCs first. So next project for today is going to be Wetware. And I realized a couple of mistakes last episode when I was setting this thing up. I changed the level limiter here to make sure that we have at least 128 dragon eggs. Before I think we were level limiting based on the amount of draconic stem cells, which technically wouldn't keep any dragon eggs in stock, so I fixed that. Anyways, the next thing we want to do with these to unlock Wetware circuits is to create Wetware circuit boards. So I was really debating whether we should set up a PA for this. But honestly, it's slow enough, I think, to merit getting its own PA. It's 300 seconds at IV. However, all we should have to do for this is add 2 item interfaces. We'll separate the inputs for this. And we need multi-layer fiber reinforced circuit boards, which we already have set up passively over here. Oh man, these chicken are everywhere. They're hiding in amongst all the cables now. And the other input item is also stem cells, which of course we're making in the PA next to this one. This also has to be given sterilized growth medium, which we should have set up passively. And chemical reactors at IV. And you should run... Uh-oh. It is chemical reactors, right? Yeah, it is chemical reactors. Oh, we need a fluid output for this. This gives us raw growth medium. Aha, that's what caused it not to run. There we go. And we may as well just directly fluid heat... Oops. May as well just directly fluid heat this. There's no use for the raw growth medium. But on the tank here for the buffer for sterilized growth medium, we definitely want to set this to lowest priority, as this is technically recycled fluid, so we want this to be used first. and then a CEF to give it power. Actually, maybe we'll do this into a drawer instead. Since it is a passive processes I like to output into drawers, or basically storage of their own. And this thing will obviously be given its own storage bus, once we lock it. So now that we got the Wetware circuit boards, we can create our final tier 6 circuits. Oh, I just realized though, this does need sterilized growth medium. Huh. And it also has to be at ZPM, right? Which means that either we shift some of the processes in here, and we swap fluids to sterilized growth medium and ZPM, or we move these circuits back to our old assembly machine here, which is actually doing tin alloy now. But maybe we do the tin alloy in the IV one. That's IV, this one is LUV. Yeah, LUV can do our circuits, and the ZPM ones will do for Wetware. Yeah, I'm gonna have to shift some fluids around in these machines here. So all of the relevant fluids have been switched around, and I also just decided to passive these tier 6 circuits. So I added in a wire mill here to import Naquada alloy. I was under the impression this was just regular Naquada, but no. This requires one more blast furnace over here, which mixes osmiridium ingots and Naquada. Osmiridium we were already making over here, of course being a mix between iridium and osmium ingots. I just figured that we were giving this thing sterilized growth medium anyway. There's nothing else that we can do with this fluid other than to make Wetware circuits. We might as well passive them. But I do have this limited to 512, just to save a little bit on the sterilized growth medium and also on the quad alloy. But now that we have the Wetwares, the last tier 6, we can take out this recipe. We don't ever want to be making crystal processors again, since the Wetwares can make everything this can make, and it's cheaper, so we need to switch out all of the recipes that use this thing. That's something I'll do off camera though, since that's very, very tedious. However, we should have everything marked out here, including the recipe for the fusion coil blocks. Yeah, this thing here, I think it takes half a stack of these to make our Mark II fusion reactor, so it's definitely worthwhile to pick up the Wetware boards before we go for that. So before we go for fusion though, we have a few more things to take care of first. First of which being to start Draconic Evolution. And for this, of course, we need to make our Draconic cores. In this pack, we need Draconium, Tungsten Carbide, both of these things we have on passive. However, we do also need Empowered Palis. This starts with regular Palis, which means we need to automate the Atomic Reconstructor. Okay, it's been some time later. I took some trial and error to get this thing to work, but I believe we got it in a working state here, and we're going to do all of these Actually Additions blocks on demand. So there are 6 in total, and the recipes we've all got set up as 8 blocks, in this case coal, equals 8 blocks of void. Now we do already have void crystals and Restonia here on passive. I think we're just going to keep this set up, since these are used in passive processes. But we will also add the pattern to this interface here. So when we request, for example, redstone, it's all going to be put into this storage crate. And it looks like it overshoots the reconstructor, that's not good. I think we need a full block here instead. But yeah, from the crate, then we're separating this out onto a subnet. So an applied energetics subnet will keep everything separate, and we're doing that through the use of this quartz fiber, which only transfers power through, which we do need for these devices to function, but we don't want to transmit channels, theoretical channels, since channels are disabled here. But yeah, we have a storage bus to read the contents of this storage crate, and then an import bus to pull it into the formation plane, which is on highest priority. And this is set to drop items as items, rather than place them as blocks. So the import bus will just import everything through this storage crate. That's going to be dropped on the floor as items, where it should be atomically reconstructed. Yeah, and the range collector will put it into its inventory, and the item conduit sends it into this drawer controller for storage. Although as we've seen here, I think we do need a full block at least here. Yeah, and all we have to do now is hook this storage bus from the drawer controller. We want these exposed to our main storage system, which means I think we can hook up to this interface. This is part of our main AE network. This will get high priority, and we just have to set the drawers here. So there is diamantine, void crystals. Oh yeah, this atomic reconstructor we're just letting pulse all the time, which obviously does use more power. It uses power every time it pulses, but I'm not really worried about power at this point. And this, we can actually speed up if we tick this faster with redstone, which may be an option, but I think it's going to be fine for this purpose, for when we're doing on demand. Anyways, last 3 is Palis, Emeradic, and also Inori. All of these we also have to set the filter on the range collector as well. And yeah, that is how we very easily automate the atomic reconstructor here. Which means that we can automate the Draconic core recipe. No, we can't. We're missing a step. We have to empower these first, that's right. And until we have Creative Tank, we have to go through combination crafting. Thankfully though, this is very, very easy to automate. I think we also need pedestals for this, and I did look at the recipe here between episodes, and we need something called red steel, which it appears to have gotten stuck. I did actually add a blast furnace over here for red steel. Yeah, it looks like we're stuck here, or I forgot to switch the machine controller. Yeah. Yeah, I added this blast furnace on the end here for red steel. And red steel we make somewhere. I think we make it for one of these dusts, maybe? Aha, it's for Signalum. Yeah, we make it in this crafter passively already. And this is why we build in buffers, so that we have it available for situations like these. Oh, you know what? One more thing, I realized here that the crafts weren't getting completed because we're sending this straight into a draw controller rather than our AE system. We should be able to fix that with the use of an interface here. Yeah, whenever you request patterns, you have to send it back into Applied Energistics. It can't go to an external storage, otherwise it won't mark the craft as complete. But because we have a storage bus here on high priority, it should prioritize being stored in these drawers. So now that we got the regular AE blocks, we have to see about empowering them. So I started by encoding all the recipes with package.all. We just have to select the table type and shift click in the recipes. One recipe package goes in the unpackager next to the table, and the other one goes in a packager, which can be anywhere on our network. So the first one I started with was Empowered Restonia, and we had everything except for cells of sulfuric acid. So I simply added a fluid canner. We had sulfuric acid already being made elsewhere, so I imported that via a fluid interface, and then just a regular item interface on top for the pattern. I also added just a basic MV extruder here for empty cells. Maybe should have put this in the PA, but we don't need too many of these things, and we get them back when the recipe is finished. But other than the sulfuric acid, that was all we needed for Empowered Restonia. For Empowered Void though, we do need cells of carbon, and to get cells of carbon in fluid form, we first of all need to smelt carbon dust to make it into ingots. Then we added almost the same setup with the sulfuric acid, with a fluid canner, importing the carbon from our system, except now we import it as items and we fluid extract on site, and that allows us to automate the production of carbon cells. And similar to the extended crafting tables, we don't need to worry about any IO. Package.all will actually take care of all of that for us. So for Empowered Diamantine, we need cells of nitrogen dioxide. It's more or less the same setup here with a chemical reactor. We mix nitrogen and oxygen, and then include a fluid canner to fill the cells for us. And for the last two empowered blocks, all we needed was 2 more fluid canners with helium and argon, 2 fluids we already make elsewhere. And we also needed some sapphires, which we can make in our new implosion compressor we made last episode. And we actually had some sapphire ore from the tier 3 microminer that was unprocessed, so I filtered that into our ore processing system as well. And with all of that completed, we can auto-craft Draconic cores and unlock Draconic Evolution. Now we are definitely in the late game, right? So the first thing we want to do with these Draconic cores is make the fusion injectors. This doesn't look too bad, right? It's just some nether stars we have automated. Draconic cores we can make, lapis blocks. Oh. The injectors. Before we move on to that though, I did actually switch out the recipe of our fusion reactor. So before we were making europium, I believe, out of this. And I've since switched this to making duranium. So duranium is made from gallium and radon. The radon we import from AE, and the gallium we have just batch crafting again, same as we had with the neodymium. We can expect to see about 6 stacks of duranium plates here. But the reason we need duranium is to then further fusion react this, along with some titanium, and this will give us tritanium. And tritanium we need for the first and only tier 9 circuit. However, tritanium we need a second fusion reactor for. This thing is not powerful enough to craft it. I just thought we would switch out the recipe now since it's quite a slow process in all fairness. But yeah, anyways, back to the injectors here for Draconic Fusion. I think the only thing we can't make out of this is another reason we needed europium, by the way. The only thing we can't make yet is these ender crystals, which are made from enderman soul vials and vibrant crystals in the soul binder. These vibrant crystals we already have on passive. These are used in one of the micro miners somewhere. But yeah, I think it's going to be very similar to this thing here for prescient crystals. We got a powered spawner for enderman. That's a soul binder. Powered spawner for enderman. This is going to be set on capture mode. Extend along some power. And we can just prime it with a bunch of soul vials manually. So this is going to fill them with the enderman variant. Then we can put these into a soul binder, just using some item conduit. So it's going to be extract brown. And once this soul binder runs the recipe, it's going to give us the empty soul vial back. So we can just extract this on purple and send it back into the powered spawner to be captured again. And then the other input we need is the vibrant crystals, which we can just import from our AE system. And you know what? We already have these things being made passively, so we might as well just passive this, right? And the last thing I think we need for the soul binder is XP. We can just add a fluid interface here, and just some ender fluid conduit here to insert. And this is going to make us ender crystals. Nice, I'm just going to hook this up to power. I forgot to power this thing, this also needs some power. So I think for now we're just going to put this into a downgraded drawer, and we'll just buffer a stack of these things, but eventually I'm going to redo this whole system, and we'll passive everything that comes out of the soulbinder, since we need it eventually for some of the higher tier microminers. Alright, so I think that allows us to add the recipe for the crafting injector, and the quest recommends that we make 34 of these things. I can't think of why it has to be specifically 34. We're missing something here. Ender crystals, we're just not buffering enough. European plates we have in the chest at the fusion reactor, and apatite dust. Apatite dust we use for luminescence over here, and I think that is all being consumed for luminescence, if I was to guess. So I think for the time being I'm going to soft mallet this, and I'm definitely going to mark this because I'll forget to turn this machine back on. And apatite ore we can either get from the tier 1 microminer mission, or we can actually just buy it, and I think we're just going to buy it, to be honest. Yeah, we have a bunch of nickels here we can turn into pennies. It's super cheap ore. Yeah, a full inventory worth? Sure. Let's get all of this through ore processing. Yeah, the European plates we should be able to find here. And I think once it catches up to the buffer here of ender crystals, we can craft our 34 injectors. Oh, nice, look at this. 22 blocks of tungsten steel, that's quite pricey. And I guess we need the recipe for the crafting core here as well. I think we'll start with 4 of these things. Yeah. Oh, you know what? Time to see if the atomic reconstructor here works. I think it should be making payless here. Ah, it does work. Nice. Man, these things are taking so long to craft. We definitely have some bottlenecks now that we're doing some more complex crafting here. So there are a number of different ways that you can set up Draconic Fusion. It's actually quite flexible in the way you set it up, but basically you just have to make sure that these are on single mode active. It looks like they are like that by default now, which I don't think ever used to be the case. Then we have an applied energistics interface here, connected to an Actually Additions interface. This compass is on lower priority, and this, when it's on block, we want this on blocking mode, should push the recipe into all of these injectors. Once the recipe is valid, oh actually we need one on this fusion crafter as well. Yeah, of course, we need to send the middle item in here, which means that we want this on the highest priority. This can be priority 1, injectors are priority 0, and this one is -1 priority. So once the recipe is valid, we need to start the craft, and we can do that just with a redstone signal. So I'm using a redstone conduit with a timer in here, and this is just timing every 20 ticks, it will send a redstone signal to the crafting core. Once it's ran the recipe, we need to get the item out of there, so we can just run some item conduit underneath. And this I think we can just connect back up to our AE system. Hopefully I didn't mess up anything here. Oh yeah, we do have to give these things power. We have to power all of these injectors. But yeah, hopefully I didn't mess up anything super obvious here. I guess we'll soon find out, but we do need a recipe to try this on, right? And the first thing we want to make with these is the wyvern cores. So the blocks of nether star we have, the empowered emeradic crystals we can now make. This is the one with argon, right? Yeah. The only thing is we need compressed infused lava crystal blocks. So to make these we need to chemical react lava and nether quartz together. Lava we can import from the AE system with a pump on the side. And the nether quartz we can import from a conveyor module on the other side. Our nether quartz, by the way, is now up to, I think, over 70,000. Yeah, we're at 73,000 here. Yeah, and so this gives us infused lava crystals. And this we have to turn into the blocks, and then we have to compress them once again. So you know what, instead of a regular drawer here, we may as well do a compacting drawer. Does it double compact like this? It does, nice. Okay, so this really simplifies things a lot, actually. The only thing is, I'm a little bit concerned about our production of lava. In fact, I think I might have just saw it already going, yeah, our buffers are emptying out, so... Lava we're producing over here at the cobbleworks, and this is in an MV chemical reactor with magma blocks. So you know what, we're going to bump this up to IV. Magma blocks on their own in a oh yeah, look at that. Yeah, all we need here is power and magma blocks, and we get lava. Fluid storage bus and a regular storage bus, both on high priority. And you know what, maybe we downgrade this drawer actually. Yeah, we'll downgrade and upgrade so that it holds like 8 stacks. 8 stacks of compressed infused. That's going to be enough for now, I think. I just don't want it to use all the nether quartz. But yeah, as for the wyvern core recipe, I think we can just import it straight from JEI. And conveniently, it is 9 items on the input, so we don't have to use the extended terminal. When we encode this though, we definitely want to make sure that the empowered emeradic crystal block, the center item, is the first in the pattern. Applied Energistics sends the items in the order they appear here, left to right, top to bottom. And because we have the crafting core here set on the highest priority, it means that the middle item should always be sent here. And it doesn't matter where the rest of the items end up. So this will go in the Applied Energistics crafting interface. And I think we can request wiring cores? AE seems to think so. Let's see if it all works out here. Oh, it's crafting some extra empty cells. Yeah, maybe we have to speed that up a little bit actually. Oh, it works! First time! Oh, he would have thought, I thought for sure I'd messed this up. Yeah, I was just going off memory on the setup for this thing, but... Quest complete. Alright, so now we want to immediately take all of these up to Wyvern tier. Upgrading the injectors means that we can craft higher tier of recipes. And since we have 34 of them here, I think I'm going to do all 34, assuming we can actually afford this. All it takes is actually just some nether stars, 2 draconic cores per, block of draconium. Our draconium is now over 3,300, so we should have enough for all the injectors, right? And the recipe for these, we should also just be able to shift click here, since it's also 9 items. Okay, we got some of our injectors crafting, but I noticed over here where we make wetwares, since we need to keep some of the wetware boards, we need them for the neural processing units and also these tier 7s, which is actually the next tier circuit we need to go for. We can't just turn them all into wetware circuits, the tier 6s, so I'm instead going to take the boards out of this assembly machine, which was being pushed by the robot arm. We want to get rid of this thing here. And instead we'll add them to this new interface back here, add a level emitter and an item conduit here. That way we can extract on brown with signal, limited item filter into the machine, we'll say 4 for now. This will also be extract on blue to put it back into the drawer controller. But yeah, this we only want to run whenever we have above 64 wetware boards. Emit when levels are above, and this is only active with a signal. So yeah, that should keep some wetware boards in stock for us. Is this thing actually working? Yes, it is working. Alright, that really does take a while to craft. And I think I have changed my mind here on these cells. Yeah, we're going to switch this away from the advanced extruder. We're going to use the PA instead. We just need to swap in one more input bus, put in the extruder shape, interface for the pattern, and we just need to make sure this is on distinct buses mode. And this should be much faster. Oh yeah, it's already done those 40 plates. So I want to show you guys this feature, check this out. I mentioned, I think maybe episode 1, that I used effortless building to build out the first of these platforms. So effortless building can allow us this array mode. We can set our offsets and the amount that we want to array by. And check this out, if we place one of the injectors here, hopefully we don't place it in that orientation. It doesn't? Okay. I think it depends the way you're facing, but yeah, look at this, we can build 3 at once. We could just do this all the way up. Same over here. Perfect. And over here. And over here. This time with Wyvern. Yeah, it's probably not very smart to place all these right now, but we can at least get all of the other infrastructure in place. Like blazers, I think it also works with these things. One here, one here. Oh, I guess that places it up. Should really start at the bottom if we're going to be doing this. Alright, so I've just been doing some things around the base, trying to prepare for the next steps. Oh, that's a bit close. That's a processing array. But yeah, we got around 8 left still to upgrade. I think we're out of tungsten carbide though to upgrade the rest. But I did at least lay down the rest of the infrastructure, and we have the patterns copied over to the other interfaces. But yeah, I want to set up some preparations for next episode, where we can hopefully get our tier 7 microminer. Maybe. But one of the other things we need is this wetware processor, the next tier 7s. And I think the only thing we're missing from this is the Franken zombie. So I know it looks a bit of a mess right now, but we're, as I mentioned earlier, we're going to redo this thing when we get to tank. But basically what we have is a zombie powered spawner, which goes into a soul binder. And this has to be combined with the Z logic controller. And the Z logic controller we can make in the slice and splice, so the items are supplied by this interface. I picked glowstone doped wafers. Even though it is technically less efficient, we get 4 if we use Naquada. I just want to save the Naquada though. The glowstone doped wafers don't really cost very much, honestly. So I think I'd rather use that for these things. But yeah, the only thing we're missing from this is actually tools for this to run. And this is nothing that another little blast furnace can't handle, so we're going to be making Fluxed Electrum. If we make the various tools from this, I believe it counts as unbreakable, or at least it used to, so I'm really hoping that's the case. So to make this, we first of all need to make Fluxed Electrum blend. And for this we do need Electrum dust. We're only passive in Electrum ingots, so we can easily add a macerator onto this stage. That'll pulverize it all into dust. We'll give this a drawer. And then to turn regular Electrum into Fluxed Electrum, we have to mix this with Lumium blend. Signalum Blend, and also Mana Dust. All of which I'm hoping we have pretty robust automation here for. Yeah, the Signalum drawer is full here, and I think hopefully same for Lumium. Yeah, we're maxed out here, that is a very good sign. Now we just need to set the recipe. This is going to make us Fluxed Electrum Blend. Limit the output inventory, and we'll also give this a drawer, with a downgrade on there. And the last thing to turn this into ingots is we just need a blast furnace. This could even be Cupronickel coils as well, but I mean, why not go for HSSG? So we're running this thing at IV. This is basically an insta-smelt the way this is configured. It's just a regular one dust setup on the inputs. Looks like we've already ran out. Hold on a second. Did I misconfigure this, or are we actually now just out of Lumium or something? Yes, I missed a conduit here. So yeah, we're just limiting it to one stack right now since it's so quick to smelt, but we do need it actually over here for the next tier of heavy plating. So it's not a bad thing to set up passively. Before we can make the tools though, there is one more item that we need, and we might as well just do this passively. So over here next to where we have Signalum, it's really just here because we have a space here. We're going to set up an autoclave. We're going to ask for molten redstone, which is going to be pulled by a pump. And we'll also include diamonds into this interface here, which we can add to an item filter insert. Oh, this is slow. I maybe should have made this a higher tier. It's fine. We don't need too many of these things. But yeah, this is going to give us flux crystals. Actually, hold on. These are, if I remember right, these are also used for the micro miner. And we use them in the flux thruster. Oh yeah. Yeah, we may... I'll upgrade this between episodes. But yeah, we're going to give this thing a drawer right here. So those crystals are used for these obsidian rods. And we can craft a flux-infused omni wrench, which counts as shears, by the way. This is awesome. I'm going to craft one for myself as well. And I think this works on Greg-type machines. Can we set the output? No, we can't set the output for this. So I think we still have to carry around this thing. It does replace the crescent hammer though, I do know that. So yeah, back over at the slice and splice, we can give this thing the flux-infused axe and the omni wrench. And this is passively going to create us Z-Logic controllers. We'll give this a drawer right here, which should mean it will be pulled in by this thing. And yeah, it gets the XP from the fluid interface here. And we have Franken zombies on passive. Nice. I think I'm going to let this go for the full drawer, since we're going to use them so often next episode. But yeah, I think with that we'll wrap things up here. Next episode, I think we may be going to the moon. We'll see. And hopefully tier 2 fusion by next episode as well. But yeah, that is going to do us today. Thank you once again for watching, and I'll see you all soon for some more at Nomifactory.